Game Day post-game show after the Ravens will win and improve to 8-3 on the season as they will defeat the Bengals tonight in Baltimore. I'm Glenn. Femi is here. KZ is here. Rita's at the game. I'm sure she will be joining us in just a bit, but I figured we go ahead and do this because I know everybody is tired and everybody wants to go to bed. Project Game Day postgame.
Absolutely.
Project Game Day postgame brought to you by AJ Michaels, Superbook Sports, and helpmygamblingproblem.org. If you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org. Femi, I'm going to let you handle this part of it, and then we'll go from there. You know how this will go. Joe Burrow got hurt late in the first half, didn't play in the second half. So there will be folks that will want to discredit what the Ravens did in rolling away from the Bengals in the second half. What say you about how we should talk about it as an adults?
I mean, availability is part of football. You know what I mean? Your ability to execute on the field and your health go hand in hand. So when Lamar missed 10 games, was anybody crying for us playing violins? Nope, nobody was. So anybody that makes that argument doesn't really understand what football's about. It's a war of attrition. So I don't think adults are going to talk about that. I mean, maybe Stephen A and his crew, because they don't have anything else to talk about, maybe they'll talk about it. But people that really know, it's nonsensical. It's kind of,
I,
yeah, that's
I,
it. That's all I
I
got.
get
Yeah.
it. I get it. I completely understand. I'm trying to grab Rita in because she is at the game, and I think she has finally seen enough. Rita, you got me? You there, friend?
I'm here.
All right. All right. You look at Rita in her black lipstick, by the way. Look at that. She went all out for tonight.
I did.
All right. Get it. Find
I
a
want to
spot.
apologize. I want to apologize ahead of time if you can hear all the chatter, but yes, I am at the game.
Yeah, all right. We'll stick. We'll come back to you in a minute. I'm going to talk with Femi for a second, and then we're going to come right back to you.
Okay.
Femi, most encouraging from you tonight in what the Ravens did. It was a weird game, right? Where they weren't really able to run the ball in the first half against the Bengals defense that we thought was going to be primed to run against. They were making just enough plays. There were some calls in the first half that were almost bizarre, and yet they got it figured out. They did what they needed to do. They looked in the second half offensively a little bit more sharp, and obviously the Mark Andrews thing we'll get to in a second because that stands out a lot.
Well, you had to figure the Bengals were going to come in here guns blazing, trying to make a point. They're not just going to lay down. I mean, they're a good football team, and they've been to a Super Bowl with Joe Burrow. I didn't think they were just going to come in here and just open the lanes up and say, "Hey, go ahead and run it down our throat." But it's a war of attrition, and eventually you keep pounding, you keep pounding. Lamar makes a couple plays with his legs. Odell makes a couple plays. Bateman makes a play. Aguilar snatches the ball. Sometimes those balls just bounce your way,
Yeah.
And inevitably, this is a game the Ravens are trying to make a statement after last week. I think they made their statement, and this is a good football team still. So people talking about, giving up, 11 games in 3 years with fourth quarter leads and all that, but they still won a ton of football games. So, there's going to be people that are always going to make some comment about something. I get it, and we absolutely don't like the fact that they've lost games when they're up double digits in the fourth quarter either, and I'm sure they don't as well. But I think that people search for talking points and narratives, and they tend to be negative more so than positive. That's the news cycle. That's the world that we live in. But in general, the statement that needed to be made today was one about we're coming back on a short week. We're playing a good football team. And they can't control, Mark Andrews got hurt. You think anybody's going to talk about that? Lamar is definitely not healthy right now. You can see the way he's moving around. And they found a way to get it done as a team, not one individual, collectively as a team. And Keaton Mitchell got his hands on the ball tonight, did some nice things, but they're not all going to be 12, 13, 20-yard runs, right? They're going to be minus runs. There's going to be a 2-yard run in there. But I think if you give him touches, you'll see him make plays. And I love Gus's consistency. I really want to see them go series for series. I'd love to see that happen because they're so different. And I still think that they go series for series and the Ravens are dominating the line of scrimmage, they'll both get the right number of carries by the time the game is said and done.
What really jumps out at me, man, is, and obviously the Andrews thing aside, because we'll find out more about that, but without Stanley and without Humphrey, but with neither one of those guys thought to be, they're not on IR, obviously, right? They're not thought to be long-term deals. What jumps out at me is, and Rita and I talked about this last night, you now have the mini bye to get through to next Sunday, and you stack this win, and you're in great shape that even if, and I don't think any of us believe they're going to lose next Sunday, but even if they did, they'd be sitting at 8-4 with this late bye. They have felt like a team from a health perspective that has badly needed the bye. They get it late in the season. It really feels like overall, by stacking this win, they're in great shape no matter what happens going into their bye.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think that they'll have 8 wins. The next closest person in the division still has 6. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that are going to have to happen. I think with this, they'll be 3-2 in the division, right? With 1 game left against Pittsburgh. So they're still,
Correct.
if you look at the division, you look at the AFC, they're right there. They're right where they need to be. What I needed to see tonight was about, how I made the statement about, Cleveland out physical the Ravens. They raven the Ravens, right? And tonight we see who's more physical. I think they watched that tape, and there were some things that Cleveland did through the whistle to the whistle because emotionally they were so locked in. And tonight, I just needed to see them get back to doing Raven-like things, and I think they did that tonight.
All right, I'm with it. All right, let's go. Let me go over. We'll go around the board for a second. Rita, biggest takeaways from you tonight.
So in the first half, I really felt like that they were doing the same things that they were doing in the Cleveland game. I felt like that they were just not getting the push that they needed. It felt like Cincinnati was in a position to control the line of scrimmage on defense against the Ravens offense, which was problematic to me. And so they weren't able to do what they were wanting to do. The Bengals are, I believe, ranked 30th in rush defense. And so I kind of knew that they were going to stack the box. I think my biggest concern in that regard was, okay, they're stacking the box, check out of that, make it a pass play, pass and then run. But in the second half, they found a way to make things work. So it's hard for me to make those arguments because I do think that the adjustments was made. Look, I don't know what this game would have looked like if Joe Burrow was in the game. I think that the Ravens would have won regardless. Let me say that. But ultimately, I do think I don't want to say I'm concerned about the offense, but I'm watching the offense because it felt like the continuation of the fourth quarter found a way to bring itself over to at least the first half of the football game on Thursday. And look, it's Thursday, right? It's only 4 games away from their last game. So that's very possible that, they just haven't had a whole week to really get themselves together. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt there. I do think that, when they have this mini bye and they go to LA next week to play the Chargers, they'll be a little bit more crisp. But the second half gave me a little bit more hope than the first half. Because the first half was very rough as far as I'm concerned.
Well, aside from the first drive, like the first drive was quite sharp, right?
Yeah.
Well,
then,
yes, but right.
I think we're getting. We've scored 34 tonight. We scored 31 last week. We scored 30 the week before that. My concern really is not the offense. My concern is how Coach Monkton on occasion tends to get away from what I think is working, which Rita, this probably aligns more with what I think you're saying. There's a flow and there's a vibe that I feel like we get into. And then sometimes on the play calling, I'm like, why are we doing that? There's a point in a series in this game. I don't remember exactly when it was, but I felt like we should have been running the ball. We come out throwing the ball. You know what I mean? I think establishing the run kind of leads to everything that goes well for this team. And we kind of had it, and then we lost it, and then we got it back. You know what I mean? The thing that I'm concerned with, and if Rita's going to watch the offense, which is I totally hear her perspective. I don't disagree, like on scale. But what I'm watching, if I'm going to say my one thing that I'm watching, it's this front seven against the run. I've been talking about Zach Moss and other running backs. When they commit to running the ball, they can run the ball on the Ravens, and it's hard to say, but I see the vulnerability. I really do. And when you play a quarterback like Joe Burrow, where you can't tip your cap and say, you know what, we're going to sell it on the run. You saw what they were doing. Joe Mixon was running the ball pretty well in the first half, and when things started to fall apart, obviously when they replaced Burrow, that whole disguise and ability to go play action, that was gone. So there was no threat at that point. So the run game disappeared with Joe Burrow. But I do see that good teams with good physical teams with a quarterback that can throw and create some dilemmas in the middle of the field makes me a little bit nervous. I want to see that tightened up a little bit. I don't know how you guys.
Can I ask about this in the play calling? Did it feel like today or tonight they were almost trying to force the deep ball thing? Like it was almost an overcompensation?
No, I don't think so because they were
Okay.
there actually. You know what I mean? Like they were there. So I don't think it was an overcompensation. I think that you've got to stretch the field 3 or 4 times, and they did that tonight. And they hit a couple of them. They got a PI on another one.
Yep.
So I think it was exactly what they needed to do last week. Now, some of those throws and things, I thought that was a little bit more forced last week. You're winning the game by 2 scores, and you're throwing deep balls down the field and not running any clock. You're not running the ball. You're not challenging the defense. Last week was an overreach for me, but this week I was 100% fine with what I saw.
Okay.
And I wanna follow up on that because at the end of the day, they don't have Bates, they don't have Bell. Their safeties are suspect. They are very new. And so I understand challenging them in that regard. I actually wanted the Ravens to challenge them more down the field in that regard. And this is a conversation we've had, I feel like, all season. Lamar and his deep throws have been something that needs work. And luckily for him, there were some pass interferences that helped him out. But ultimately, he has to find a way to connect, particularly against defenses that have secondaries that are suspect. And that's where I'm at.
Hey, what company
remember they called back a touchdown that was not a penalty on Odell Beckham. That was a terrible call. So all the calls evened out at the end of the day. So for me, it's football. We don't know what we're going to get sometimes with these refs, right? They want to be famous.
Two of those calls in the first half, that one and in the pass interference on Flowers.
I agree.
No contact at all.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. There was no contact. Yeah, there's no contact.
Hey, what company has the expertise and technology to make your home substantially more energy efficient, comfortable, and even virus-free? It's AJ Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis at ajmichaels.com. All right, KZ, who survived with Femi last week. There was no strangling. There was no, in fact, I saw hugging and not strangling shared by KZ and Femi last week. KZ, your big takeaways from tonight.
I think we've covered it pretty well. I mean, it was a weird game. They go down, they look great in the first drive, and then it just I agree with Reeta. It was weird to me. Like after that first drive, for about a quarter and a half, they were totally dominated in the trenches, it looked like. They mix in Femi said it with Moss, and now you have another team that wanted to run the ball, and he ran it right down their throats, as well as anybody did. So that was a concern. There was one change that Moncton made today, that was really positive. Macari was struggling early, when they were in the pistol, and they went to the 7-step drop, and they went to the deeper drop. They got out of that. That made all the difference in the world to me. It allowed them to do some more chipping with it looked
likely was out there chipping. Yeah.
And Macari was able to get his feet under him, and it kind of stopped all the pressure they were under. Outside that, I mean, look, the Andrews thing is a bummer. The good part is that hopefully it's not a break, and you got this mini bye. You got, maybe he only misses one game because then you have the other bye. Odell went down late in this game. I don't know if they made anything of it, but
I think he's all right. Yeah, shoulder bruise. I think he's all right.
Maybe I just when guys take off their uniform entirely, it's just something to monitor. And Lamar's got to get healthy. Look, that ankle, we talked about the ankle a couple of weeks ago, and it's still a problem. It gives out on him. what Moncton was doing, calling a quarterback draw after he got up limping was beyond me. I couldn't believe that they put him in harm's way like that near the goal line. But other than that, it's Femi's right. The media is going to make
KZ, particularly since he looks like had a hip injury, I guess, in the game.
I don't know if it was a hip. It looked to me like he rolled his ankle twice.
Okay.
Who? Jamal Lamar?
The one on the side.
He had a hip tackle and he was in pain. The one that he went under the tent for, the blue tent.
That was an ankle.
I think that was an ankle.
Okay.
I don't know if it was a hip or not. But the media is going to make a big deal, and they're going to say, you don't know what this game was because of the Burrow injury and things like that. But I agree with it. The Andrews goes down. That's their number one weapon on offense. Outside after Lamar in the passing game.
Marlon Humphrey's not out there.
Marlon's not there. Ronnie Stanley's not there. I mean, I don't.
Yeah. So I don't.
Both
talking about injuries is for children. Anyone that wants to talk about that, I can't deal with that because, like I said before, and KZ probably didn't hear this, and Reeta probably didn't hear this either. When Lamar was out for 10 games, nobody was crying for Baltimore. Nobody's playing violins for us. Nobody talked about Huntley almost winning a playoff game last year in Cincinnati. No one talks about that. So it's okay. And if anybody wants to talk about that, I don't got time for it. And maybe I can send him to Reeta on X and have Reeta hit him with a laser beam for me.
She'll get it. I like to add the fact that Stanley and Marlon didn't play in the first game, so it doesn't fucking matter. There's that.
See about it. Reeta's got something to say. All right. Let's talk, Femi, about the impact of if Mark Andrews is going to miss time. Let's have that conversation. As Ken said, you're hopeful that it's not terribly bad, but it certainly did not look good, and him being on crutches underneath.
Yeah. Well, he got hurt in the first series of the game, and you saw the final score. You know what I mean? So, I mean, they're going to find that guys are going to find a way to step up. Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kohler. They both caught passes tonight. You know what I mean? They're not Mark Andrews, but guess what? It's going to happen by committee. This is the NFL. Guys get hurt. It's inevitable. And the fact that he was walking was encouraging because I literally, when it happened, I was like, oh, his leg is broken. I thought immediately his leg was broken. People are saying his knee. I'm like, no, it's his leg for sure. The way the dude rolled up on it. But the fact that he was walking, you might be right. Glenn, it could end up being maybe a 3-week, injury. They haven't talked about the x-rays yet. I don't know if the x-rays are negative yet, but the fact that he was moving around is encouraging. But it's going to be a problem. That's Lamar's security blanket. There's no way you can tell me the Ravens are better without Mark Andrews. They're not. You know what I mean? But is the blow going to be as significant when you have 10 days between this game and the next game to either get him ready or to get the guys that are going to be taking his rollover ready, which is probably going to be by committee. It's probably going to be receivers and tight ends picking up that slack.
So I have a couple thoughts on that because to me, it's also the red zone that we have to talk about the impact, right? Because Mark Andrews is immediately your best red zone target. And it feels like that's an area where Rashad Bateman really could step up and offer you I'm enamored with Rashad Bateman. I'm enamored with his skill set. And we have seen it in doses. We have seen that this kid has the opportunity to be special. And it feels like the red zone in particular, if you're going to be without Mark Andrews, that's the biggest area where you'd love to see Rashad Bateman take another step forward.
Well, he did it tonight. He had a touchdown. Lamar did do his thing for 11 seconds and found him, but I think, like I said, I think it's going to be up by committee, and we got a dose of what it might look like tonight. We saw how they went more 3 wides, and obviously Kohler caught a pass, and as I mentioned, Likely caught a pass. Likely probably could have caught another 2 passes potentially if he just sits down and doesn't look around and make sure that he's okay and in safe space. But in general, they'll figure out a way that they're going to have to, and other guys might go down during the season. And guess what? Teams they're going to play are going to lose guys too. So this is a war of attrition, not just of ability and team on team stuff. It's a lot more complicated than that. No,
I get it. I also had this thought on the goofy tip drill touchdown on Nelson Aguilar's score. I said,
last week it's a pick 6. This week it's a touchdown.
But as silly as that is, to me, it's also a statement about the value of having 4 NFL caliber wide receivers on your roster. And I'm not trying to beat up anything from the past, but we all know that there have been plenty of years where there weren't 4 NFL caliber wide receivers on this roster. And it goes such a long way that's your fourth option, and that's a dude that is completely prepared for that type of moment and is completely in tune. And it speaks to me to the importance of what they did with the depth of the position this offseason.
Yeah, if I have to give an award to a position group tonight, I'd say Odell stepped up, Aguilar stepped up, Bateman stepped up, and Zay stepped up. They all did. Really
Yeah.
think about it. They all made impactful plays tonight. Some of them multiple plays that were impactful, right? So I got to tip my cap to the receiving room. And to piggyback on what you're saying, Glenn, this is what a group of good receivers can do for you when your best player on offense, other than your quarterback, goes down. You know what I mean? And yeah,
Bingo.
so I'm glad we have those guys right now, right?
Bro, it makes all the difference in the world. The other guy that I wanted to give some love to, who's saying hi? Who is that, Reeta? Who's trying? You're muted. I can't say hi to him. Reeta, I can't. Who's trying to say hi to us? You're muted, Reeta. Gosh, you're muted. You're muted, Reeta.
Couple drinks.
I know, right? It's been a night. Reeta, you've been muted the entire time. Do you not hear us?
Oh, okay. He said KZ, Glenn, everybody. What's up? I think that was Chef 87.
I love Keith. I love Keith.
Yeah,
good guy. Good guy.
Yeah, it was him.
Love that dude. All right, Keith. Sorry, buddy. The other guy I want to give some love to was Ronald Darby. That play on the sideline on the bomb to Jamar Chase. That was such heady football to me. Like realizing in that moment, looking at where he was, not even thinking I'm going to go for the ball, but realizing I have the opportunity to shove him over the sideline right now. That was the one moment in the second half where I thought the Bengals had a chance to get going. To me, that was a remarkably heady play from Ronald Darby.
Yes, it was. And I love Ronald Darby. I don't really understand. I do understand. I want to say this. I do understand why they put Stevens on Chase, because they bracketed him with Marcus Williams, I believe. And I do understand the logic behind that. But I really felt like Ronald Darby was able to go toe-to-toe with Chase. And I really feel like that was something that they probably could have done a little bit more. And look, it worked out. So I'm not going to sit here and complain. But ultimately, I think that Darby is to me, thus far, been a really good pickup for this team. He's a guy that I thought played really well in Denver prior to his injury. So this is a guy that I really feel like can play really good football. And I'm glad that he was able to make the plays that he was able to make.
No, I thought he had a nice night tonight. I was very impressed by Darby. On the flip side, that was a bad pass interference from Rock Yassin. He had a rough week last week. If they have to continue rolling with him, how concerned are you about what you're seeing from Rock Yassin at the moment, Femi?
I'm not overly concerned about him in particularly. I'm more concerned about the run game. Way more concerned about the run game, because that's where the Ravens defense starts. It starts with stopping the run.
I get it.
And pressure. So they got pressure tonight, but if you're getting pressure and you're stopping the run, the Ravens are going to be really, really hard to beat. Now, if you're not getting pressure and you're not stopping the run, then maybe some guys on the outside get a little bit more exposed. But so far, it hasn't been a problem. I mean, you look at the Ravens statistics across the whole season. They're one, two, or three in pretty much every category that matters. So, I know we expect things to go perfect sometimes, but the reality of it is that offenses have an advantage, and the rules keep it that way, and so do the offices in New York, unfortunately. So. There's never going to be enough DBs to cover all the receivers that are out there on the field. And that's why it's so important for your front seven to make things predictable, to stop the run, and to get pressure on the quarterback. That's the best way to take care of any issues in the back end.
All right, let me revisit something that I know we talked about last week, but we saw on the early breakup that Marcus Williams had on third down. There were a lot of folks who said, man, with two arms, that's an interception. And it seemed like we saw another couple of times tonight where he was a bit tentative in tackling. There is a thought process from many that Marcus Williams is a liability right now because he's playing with one arm. Do you feel that way about him, or do you feel like he's offering you enough that he's still better than the alternative?
I mean, are we saying Geno Stone or him? Is that what we're saying? Because I didn't see much of Geno Stone tonight.
I didn't see much of Geno Stone tonight either. That's fair.
Yeah, so Marcus Williams has credentials that go back a few years. Geno is really come into his own this year. I'd love to find a way to give them both time, because Geno's made too many big plays to have him just watching. You know what I mean? But you have so many good guys. Like, where do you put him if he's not playing safety? And you paid Marcus Williams all that money. You know what I mean? So it's a dilemma. At the end of the day, I've always thought the Ravens were always going to put the best 11 guys out there. And if you're in nickel dime, whatever, you're going to put the next best DBs out there, and salary shouldn't be as much an issue. I'm not ready to say he's a liability, but I definitely feel like Geno Stone has been playing better. How about I say that?
Okay. I mean, it's tough for me, right?
Fair to say, I think, let me say this. I think it's fair to say that if Marcus Williams had two arms that he could utilize, that he would be playing at a very high level. He's only essentially playing with one arm. And I think this is a good problem to have, right? You have a guy that you paid a lot of money for, Marcus Williams, and then you turned around and he was not able to play. And Geno Stone has stepped into the fold and been able to be the guy that Marcus Williams would be. So, look, I don't know what's going to happen at the end of the season, but ultimately, if Marcus Williams can find a way to be healthy, you have to utilize him because, number one, from a politics perspective, you paid him a lot of money, but I also think that he is a very good football player. But I agree with 50 in the sense that you do have to find a way to get him on the field as well. So that's a good problem to have. So
I want to point this out.
That's how I feel about it. He's got two really good safeties.
I don't know because I haven't been able to go back and watch the film. Randy, who's watching with us right now, says that Geno did play most of the game splitting with Kyle Hamilton at slot cornerback. So,
really? Okay.
Yeah. So the thought would be more that if you were to take Marcus Williams off, it would be Worley who would be put in that spot instead, right? So I guess that's a different conversation than, to your point, Femi, like Geno Stone's played well. Daryl Worley, we don't have quite the same track record with, and we don't feel quite as good about if that's who you'd be turning to. And I think that's a fair point that Randy brings up because I'm watching the ball so much that I'm not looking to see who else.
Exactly. Yeah, me too. I made that same mistake. Yeah, I would love to see this from an all 22 perspective. And maybe what I'll do is I'll go back and watch it again just to see how that worked out with them on the field at the same time. You know,
I think the point that you make is you don't feel like he's hurting the team by being on the field.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't think he's hurting the team. No.
Go ahead, Casey.
Yeah. I was actually going to compliment him tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I saw a guy 4 days ago that looked like he was in a lot of pain and wasn't mixing it up at all and wasn't using his other arm. I saw him make plays tonight. He had a couple of pass defenses. He was there on the double team a couple of times. I was actually going to say that, if that's the Marcus Williams we're getting with one plus arm, I'll take that. He played pretty well tonight, and I could be wrong. And like Femi just said, when we all rewatch the game on the all 22, as some of us do, maybe I'll have a different perspective. But just from the broadcast that I saw, I thought Marcus Williams handled himself pretty well tonight.
In the notes that I took, the one thing, there was a screen to the far sideline to Joe Mixon that he appeared to be completely uninterested in trying to wrap on a tackle, right? Now that's one that I pointed out. And a lot of people pointed out that the thought is if he has both arms, that's an interception. But again, what are you trading off, right? He made the play. He broke up the pass. It was a field goal instead of a touchdown on the Bengals' first drive, right?
I saw a lot of people saying that on Twitter. You're talking about a guy that was diving to knock down that pass with his off arm across his body. That's not an interception. If he breaks on the ball, maybe a little bit, but you're talking about a guy on that particular play that's coming across using his left arm across his body to knock down a pass. I didn't see that. And like I said, we can go back and look at it. I thought he had a pretty good night tonight against, that's a decent group of receivers.
Oh, it's even without T. Higgins, it's still a good group.
Without T. Higgins, I mean, you're starting with Chase, who they totally eliminated tonight. They handled.
And look, Tyler Boyd in the past has been the Ravens killer in the past. Yeah, but T. Higgins has been the guy that kind of helps that situation.
No, he does, and I'm not saying that they're at full strength. Nobody's at full strength, but but what I'm saying is that they handled that pretty well. Even when Burrow was in the game, they held them to field goals. They weren't allowing the big plays. They were, the biggest plays came from the tight end Hudson on third down. If that's the guy that's going to make the big play when you're playing
Yeah, you'll live with that.
you'll take that all day.
And in fairness, the one on third down was just a gorgeous throw from Burrow. I mean, oh my God, I don't know what anybody does.
We're talking about Burrow, I mean, you're talking about one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
Right. No,
so he's going to make plays, but to still, while he was in the game, to limit them and not let them get in the end zone. I don't. Talk about tackling. It looked to me like Clean didn't want to tackle anybody, just wanted to go for a big hit the entire first half. Somebody got in his ear and said, "Hey, you got to wrap some people up," and he finally started doing it.
I saw a little bit of that, and that to me goes back to what I said. This looks like a team that could use a bye week, right? Like this looks like a team that is beat up. And Femi, I know you'll probably say like it's not an excuse, and this is football, and you got to go out and play, but on a human level, it feels like a team that's had a very late in the season bye week and has had to play. And it's a price that they're paying for.
Yeah, no,
Femi,
I agree. I agree.
Femi, have you ever had a bye week this late in the season? Ever?
Absolutely, and love it.
Really?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Why?
Because
I need to answer.
Well, I mean, if you're healthy, you want to keep rolling. If you're not healthy, the bye week can't come fast enough. You know what I mean? So I just have had a career where I've had few injuries, and so I like being fresh going into the last quarter of the season. And the Ravens have this mini bye, and then they have a bye week 13, which is perfect timing. They're going to be as healthy as they've ever been this late in the season, ever, as far back as I can think, unless something catastrophic happens in LA. You know what I mean? But I love having a bye week later in the season. I think it's just better for everybody. So
I mean, if you can stack up,
hey,
if you can get Rita.
I just want to say that John Harbaugh apparently came out and said that Mark Andrews has a very serious injury and could potentially end his season. Just want to put that out there.
Damn.
Yeah.
That just came over.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
that's a bummer.
Hey,
but
Isaiah Likely got to do what he got to do. That's how I see it. Next man up.
I'm actually going to go the other way, Rita. I don't think it's Likely because Likely already had the role in this team. I think it's Kolar. I think Kolar is a clone of Andrews. That when they drafted him, I said that. He's a very similar. If you go back to his college tape, he was a very similar move type tight end. I think Likely has his role, and they're going to keep him in that role. And you only have to make one change, and that's just Kolar becomes the guy that steps in that Andrews role. Personally, I think that's why they drafted both of them, way back when. So we'll see. We'll see what it is, but I think Kolar's the guy that the role really increases for.
It's going to increase because it has to for him, but right. I'm not convinced that it's just going to be drop him into Andrew's spot. I think it's going to be in tandem. I think that Likely's role is going to increase and Kolar's role is going to increase. I don't think it's just going to be a slip it right in and just leave Likely as the H and put Kolar at the Y like that. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that the thing about the NFL is and this is for all sports. You got to trust the guy, right? And I don't know if Kolar has built enough goodwill and trust, in my opinion, to just slip him into Mark Andrews' spot. And go ahead and play 55, 60 plays. And Isaiah Likely, you're just going to go ahead and keep playing your 15 or 20. What I think is going to end up happening is that they're both going to end up playing probably 40 plays a game. You know what I mean? Until one of them breaks out and shows that if Andrews is going to be out like for the rest of the season, until one of them shows that they're ready to take on that role, I think they're both going to get equal opportunity at this point. That's my assessment. We're kind of saying the same thing. I'm just nuancing it a little bit.
Yep.
So just on a thought here is again, look, there's no way, we keep saying it's devastating. Obviously, there's no way around this with Mark Andrews. This is Mark Andrews that we're talking about. It's devastating. One, it's nice to have finally built up, the depth at wide receiver that you feel like you still have options and weapons. But the other end of this conversation, Femi, is that the tackle that he was injured on is this hip drop tackle that there has been so much attention paid to. And the statistics say that you are 250 times more likely to get hurt on a hip drop tackle than you are any other tackle. There has been a push from the league. They made it very clear at the last set of owners meetings that this is going to be something they're going to talk about. There you go, from John Harbaugh. There has been a lot of conversation about the league banning a hip drop tackle. Where are you at? We talked about it with Tyus and Jadeveon a couple weeks ago. They said, look, man, it's tough. We're running out of ways to play defense anymore. The more you do.
They figured out how to stop doing the horse collar tackling, right? This is not that different. This is just along the waist now instead of up on the neck. You know what I mean? So, look, if the rule's implemented, it affects everybody, not just one team. Everyone's got to deal with it, right? And we know that this game is going to be geared toward protecting players going forward. And I'm going to do a little research of my own. I totally believe what you're saying, Glenn. I'm actually shocked I haven't heard more about the movement to get rid of that type of tackling, because it's necessary. Because I've seen so many guys break an ankle, tear up a knee, so many terrible things happen on those hip drop tackles.
There was a big presence.
I have a valid question. Where are defenders supposed to tackle if the hip drop tackle is eliminated?
Well, they can't fall backward. They got to run through the guy. So they just can't fall backward. I mean, at the end of the day, with what's happened from a player safety perspective and all the money that the NFL is going to have to pay out to injuries and workers' comp, I'm for anything to make players safer. As a former player, I know what it's like. I totally get it. So I'm always going to err on that side. I don't care what the rule is. I don't care how upset people get about, what a defense is supposed to do. You're getting paid to play football. You'll figure it out, bro. You're going to figure it out. And you're going to keep getting paid, too. So it is what it is.
Femi, because one of the things somebody would say is in that scenario, the reason why, and I think it was Logan Wilson, correct, that was the one who committed the tackle.
Yeah.
He had the tackle. It's a legal tackle still today. That if he doesn't go to a hip drop, he's likely to end up being carried into the end zone by Mark Andrews, right? If he attempts to run through him, that Mark Andrews is likely to just take him on a ride into the end zone. And my thought back would be, that's the way it goes, right? Like if that's the nature, if you get beat, that's what's going to happen now moving forward.
Well, your other option is to stand up and hold the guy up until your teammates rally to the tackle. That's the other option. You know what I mean? So
stand them up.
This is the thing. And I'm not sure if Rita's going to say it or not. Reeta, do you feel like it's an unfair rule to put in? Like, do you not like the idea of the rule?
I just don't know what the options are because
there's plenty of options. There's plenty of options.
That's why I was at. This is a real question. This is not me being smart. I just want to know if you can't hit high, you can't hit low, you can't hit in the middle. Then
okay, now you're playing. You can't hit high, you can't hit low. Really? What are we talking? We talking about the quarterback in the pocket, or we talking about players getting tackled? You're talking about quarterback in the pocket now.
No, I'm talking about like running backs can lower their head, but if you do that's a penalty.
Running backs are getting fined for lowering their head now too. They're not calling the penalty as much, but they're definitely getting fined.
Not like they should be. Let's be clear. Not like they should be.
Hey, listen, I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to say this. I don't care if it's an offensive player or a defensive player. It's a penalty. It's a penalty. It's a penalty when it comes to injuries. They got to figure it out. That's it. End of story. When it comes to player safety, I am not of the belief that my body as an athlete is for the entertainment of folks. It is not. Now, if I go out there and decide to play and they want to make rules to protect me and the game is still the same game that we've been playing, which it basically is, we're taking out devastating hits. We're talking about like things that are going to affect people for the rest of their lives. That's not worth it to me.
I don't disagree with you. I still don't have an answer though. That's my point.
No, I gave the answer. The answer is that they got to figure it out. They do not horse collar tackle anymore. They got to figure it out.
Horse collar, I'm completely against. Let me be clear.
The hip drop isn't much different though, is my point.
Okay, so where do you hit? That is my question.
You watched the whole game tonight. Did guys get hit and was there penalties called? No, there were not, right? Guys got hit and they figured it out, right? We're talking about one play that happened tonight that I want to get rid of and many other players want to get rid of. That's what we're talking about.
I think a lot of people would say that first hit on Lamar at the sideline looked a lot like a hip drop tackle as well.
It did. It was.
That's a quarterback.
No, but he's a runner. But he's a runner at that point, though, so it doesn't matter.
He was downfield. You're right. And while you're right, we still do not put the same emphasis on runners as we do on quarterbacks that are running. Let's be clear on that.
I'm not sure if you're trying to protect the player or if you want the hits back. I'm not sure which one you want.
No. I'm not trying. I would like to protect the player. I'm just asking what is a fair median in terms
there were probably 120 plays tonight, and there were 2 hip drop tackles. I don't think there were any roughing the passers, and I don't think there were any illegal hits. We're talking about 2 penalties that what should have been called tonight with a hip drop. The other 118 plays would not have been affected. So if you're not sure what to do, just go watch the game back and see all the plays where they didn't call a penalty. That's what they're supposed to do. Those plays. Do that thing. That thing where you don't have to hurt somebody in the process. That's what I want them to do.
Go ahead.
Can I ask a
quick
question? So on that type of tackle, the hip drop, we just want Wilson there to drive him forward instead of pulling him back. Is that
either drive him forward or to the side?
Right.
One or the other.
Okay.
But you can't pull his weight back and then fall on his legs because that's where it happens. So the answer is do anything but that. You can do anything you want, but you can't do that. And there's a myriad of other things that you can do. But guess what? There was 118 plays tonight where there wasn't a hip drop tackle, and none of them were called for anything illegal. So that's what they need to do. Those other 118 plays, do that stuff.
Okay, so this is where my logic comes in because physics don't work like that, and that's where I stand with that, and so that's why I feel like although I want
physics,
I do not understand. I don't understand how that's going to be possible. That's where I stand with that.
Okay. Did you watch the game tonight? You saw the game, right?
I did. I was there.
Yeah. So, but what I'm saying is like it seems like you don't like the answer. There are plenty of ways to tackle people without doing that. Let's move on. Let's move on from this topic because I'm going to get irritated.
I just want to say real quick. I don't know why I said 250 times more.
Femi, it's okay for me to not understand and for you to be on one other side of it. It's me trying to understand, but I just don't understand.
I'm not sure if you don't understand or don't want to understand because
I'm never in a position where I don't want to understand. I literally asked you a question.
I'm telling you, there was 120 tackles tonight. There were 2 hip drop tackles. The other 118 are examples of what you should be doing when you're tackling somebody. Not those 2 things. I'm being serious right now. I don't know what else to say.
I am too. I want to be clear. I'm being serious too.
Okay. All right, cool. So I've given you the best answer that I can give. So if you want to, you and I can watch it. I'm being serious right now. You and I can watch a bunch of video together. I'm going to show you all the different ways to tackle people, but not do those things that are penalties.
I'm willing to learn. That's the thing. You think that I'm trying to argue with you, and I'm not. I'm telling you that I want to understand because at the moment I'm trying to understand, but it doesn't compute to me. So I do need to be told to understand. That's what I'm trying to say.
We'll make that happen. Let's do it. I love that.
Yeah,
we'll
for sure. Happen. Absolutely. I would love to learn.
I want to correct my number. I said 250. It's late. It's 25. That's the number. It's the percentages say that you're 25 times more likely to get injured on a hip drop tackle. And the NFL did a huge presentation about it at the last round of owners meetings. And there was the feeling that they were moving to, I think it's Dr. Sills, who's the guy's in charge of all things.
Regardless, it's happening.
It feels like there is a movement seriously to be rid of hip drop tackles moving forward within the league.
It needs to be gone. It's time.
And it's tough. I mean, it's tough because the rule's not there. I can't be angry at Logan Wilson because based on the rules right now,
I'm not. He's
doing
his job. Right? He's doing his job. I'm not mad at him at all. I'm not mad at him at all. Right. But what I'm saying is that it needs to go away. And I'm going to always err on the side of player safety. I don't care what the rule is. I don't care who it helps or who it doesn't help. I'm always going to, because I've seen what this game does to guys. I lived in San Diego with Junior Seau. I've watched guys wither away because of the exposure that they've had to this game. And I love this game, and I wouldn't change anything. I'd play it again. I would do it all over again. But the truth of the matter is there are guys that probably shouldn't have done it and shouldn't do it all over again. and we're trying to eliminate those things that lead to that. And that's what I'm talking about. That's all.
And that's fair.
And to me, if the answer is you don't know how to make a tackle in that situation, then you're going to get carried for a touchdown because
exactly. That's it.
That's the reality.
Because that's more important. That's more important to me. It's more important. Put it this way: whether I'm on the Ravens side of this or the Bengals side of this, as long as I know you're going to go home and see your kids and be able to carry your kids and run around with your kids and live your life and remember who your kids are, then I'm all good with whatever happens on a damn football field.
Yeah, the result of the football game.
That's what I'm saying. When you deduce it down to the outcome, and this is the thing, because I've talked to many people, and let me say this first of all, Reeta, you are extremely articulate and extremely intelligent when it comes to your analysis. What I'm saying right now is way bigger than us and just you and I going back and forth on
and
this.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is that I do not want my commitment to this game to be miscalculated as not caring for my future, my body, or my ability to perform as a full-grown, fully movable adult when I'm 60 or 70. And people literally, they talk trash about this game because they say, oh, the big hits, the big hits. I'm like, did you ever play, motherfucker? Did you ever play football? Did you ever get hit? Have you ever not remembered where you were? Have you ever forgotten something because you got hit in the head on a football field? No, you haven't. So when you tell me that you want the game to go back to how it was, you're not understanding how many people have been affected by the death or head injuries that someone that committed to this game has endured and lived with. The ramifications of that go way beyond just one person is my point. That's all.
Or can't walk. Or can't.
I want to be clear that I completely agree with that logic. And I just want to be clear that I also do agree with player safety. I want to put that on the record. I think my logic is just curious to know how this gets fixed if they find a way to ban it. That's all.
I'm expecting it. I'm expecting that's going to come.
Oh, me too, for sure. It's coming.
And I agree with Femi. I think it needs to. I think, and it's not just because Mark Andrews got hurt tonight, right? Like we've seen,
right.
We've seen it. Yeah, it's been bad. It's been really bad.
Example after example over the years of that. So this is the reality for the Ravens moving forward. Is no Mark Andrews, and it sucks. Lamar Jackson says he's fine. He says he'll be good to go for the Chargers, and whether he'll still be appearing to be a little bit limited, remains to be seen. Hopefully the extra 3 days.
Yeah, I think he's going to be okay. If you look at the way he finished it off, Glenn, I feel like he's going to be all right. He's going to have 10 days. You know what I mean? I think he's going to be ready to rock and roll. And I think we've all said it one way or another. These guys are all banged up right now. You saw it in the way they were carrying themselves, right?
Yep.
On days, right? Like, hey, I need to just get through this one, right?
Yep.
Sometimes
100%.
But they got to win, and it's going to be a good day tomorrow. Could you imagine if they lost this game?
I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it.
You don't want to think about it.
I don't want to even think about it. They got it done.
It would have been all bad, right? You know what I'm saying?
Also, real quick, John Harbaugh said Odell Beckham's shoulder does not look too bad. So there you go. That follows up on what you thought. So there you go. All right. I need to remind everybody that if you sign up right now at Superbook, you'll get use the code GlennClark23. You'll get up to $250 in a same-day first bet match, win or lose. Superbook.com. Download the Superbook app. We're not going to go too long tonight, Femi. Appreciate you, brother. Love you.
Femi, I thought you told us you wasn't going to be long. You was here the whole time.
Man, you guys always rope me in, and then I get damn caught up in it, and then Rita's firing me up. KZ didn't fire me up today, you know what I'm saying? So it's all good.
It's usually KZ, but it was me today.
Nah, it's all good. We're on the same team. We're on the same team, Rita.
Absolutely.
Love you, Rita. Of course, you and I are together on Tuesday night with Tyus Bowser. We will be at. See you, buddy. Thank you, Femi. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
See you, pal.
Bye, Femi.
Bye.
We are together again at Mother's North Grill in Timonium for the next Tyus Bowser show. Hope everybody will come out and join us for that. A lot to be happy about. We are in a good place right now. Everything is good other than Mark Andrews. Everything is good. They're 8-3. Everything is good. The Mark Andrews thing, a bummer. But come out and hang out with us Tuesday night at Mother's North Grill in Timonium. KZ, appreciate you, buddy, for staying up late. KZ threatened to go to sleep multiple times during the second half.
I just said I was
sleepy. Damn good well he's a liar. He knew he wasn't sleeping for that damn game.
I just said I was sleepy because once Burrow went out of the game, I mean, come on. The air went out. I mean, it was over.
You're right.
While I completely agree, I think the demons of the Ravens in the fourth
I
quarter
know. I
left a
know.
few people saying, I still need to watch this thing through and make sure nothing gets interesting at any point. And so that's what we did. They got one
Hey
more
man,
score.
and listen. Jake Browning at Washington. I saw the guy. He wasn't a bad kid, so I was definitely interested. Obviously, he's not Joe Burrow, but I was curious to know how that was going to play out. So that definitely had my attention. I will say.
Did we
He
get
threw,
an
he threw
update?
some good balls.
Yeah, he did exactly,
He did.
and the same stuff that he did at Washington. KZ.
Yeah, I know.
Did
I
we
know.
get an update on Joe Burrow after the game by chance? Did anybody see anything about
You know
that?
what's funny about that is that PFT did a they made a post about he had apparently the day before yesterday they posted a picture of the Bengals and Joe
Yeah, with
Burrow
the
had
brace.
something on his
Yeah.
arm and they
Right.
deleted it because people I guess people caught on to what was going on. So I watched that game against the Texans. He got tore up pretty bad. So I'm not surprised that he sustained some type of injury, but I'm also not surprised that that they decided to delete that post because I guess people started catching on to what was going on there.
Apparently, all that Zach Taylor said after the game was, "Looks like he sprained his wrist."
Okay,
So
Yeah.
all right. Well, that wrist was sprained last week. Let me be
Yep.
clear.
Yeah, that was that. So two things with that. You know, if you read lips, after the game, he was talking with Queen, and if you read lips, Queen asked him how he was doing. He goes, "I'm in pain, but we'll see."
Okay, because let me tell you something. And I'm about to use a curse word, but I watched that game against the Texans last week, and they fucked him up.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh yeah.
Oh God. And Randy just reminded me that the Steelers play the Bengals next week. So the
they
Steelers
sure
of
do. And the
effing
Steelers play
course,
the Browns and the Bengals. And you're
they get,
welcome, Steelers.
God damn, man. The Steelers are gonna keep stockpiling effing wins
You're right.
against backup quarterbacks and stay in this goddamn division
Thanks to the
race.
Ravens.
God. Can't kill those mother efforts, man. We know they're not that good. Oh, that I totally forgot. Thanks for that reminder, Randy. Appreciate you. Oh, that's brutal. Well, hopefully it'll catch up to him at some point. All right. Love you guys. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us late tonight. We will be back after the Chargers game. Enjoy your Thanksgiving weekend.